The fact that this was discovered hiding under a painting during a renovation of a cathedral in Naples says it all. Another sloppy cover-up of our true past at work. I think they tried to cover up giants and dragons, griffins, and a lot of other creatures. Yet they did such a sloppy job, they just ended up calling them mythical creatures. But isn't it odd, the Chinese zodiac has all real creatures but one. And the fact that so many of our cultures, all across our realm, share the same depictions of dragons, much like they do giants and many other creatures. These artists drew exactly what they saw. And you can still find some mud fossil remains. Like here's the Dragon Head cave in Egypt. This world is vastly different than what we've been told it was. And why cover up dragons? It's the same reason why they lied to us about all of our history. Those unaware of their true past
Tomato, potato.
and their true origins are all that much easier to control. Perhaps dragons explained some of those melted castles. And just look what our old dictionaries said about dragons. Now rare. And even a new story from England. This was just a few short generations ago. As they say, it only takes a few generations to completely erase our knowledge of our true history. And sloppy as it may be, they have succeeded in doing that. Question everything, friends.
Reptilians, dude, what have you heard about them?
Of course.
Like, and dude, and I've seen videos where like it didn't look fake, like to me, but like the eyes went doot doot and like literally shut sideways. Some sort of skin over their eye went whoop, whoop, whoop.
Yeah.
And it was a blink,
I've
but
seen
like
those.
a reptile blink, and it made it like a slit eye. It was like freaking freaky, dude. Well, again, if that's real video, hell
it's
yeah, I
real.
believe in it. But I don't know if it's real video.
Would you resist against the reptilians if they were real?
What do you mean resist?
I mean, if you knew for sure that the people that are running our world are lizard people and dude, like they're in power, like that video where you see that, you know that they're real.
Yeah.
What would you do?
I would find others like me until there were more than
You
them.
wouldn't build the resistance?
That's what I just
So
said.
would you be
Nope.
Rowdy Piper?
I
Take
would
your
not,
ass back
I
to
would
that
not
podcast
go
on Monday.
quietly into the night, Max.
Security guy, you got somebody else there who works in the shop, dragging him back to the security area. They're going to process him. Now here's the question I have. What the hell happens here? All right, I believe aliens walk amongst us, and here's
See?
proof. Boom, alien face. Now they ain't going to be dragging somebody like that and just let
Exactly.
him go. Just because he made a face. He pulled down his human skin face and showed what's really under there. So aliens walk amongst us, and there's proof. What does he do? What is this? Look at that. That's alien face. I've slowed it down for you. I'll try my best to show you. Based on the footage, it's not very clear. It's a little bit fuzzy. Well, it's very fuzzy, as most of these things are. But you can see, there's a whole different looking alien face under there, and he pulls his human face right back up.
Tunnels coming to set you free, bringing the light for all to see. No more tunnels, no more fear. Trump Gaza is finally here. Trump Gaza shining bright, golden future, a brand new light. Feast and dance, the deal is done. Trump Gaza, number one. Trump Gaza shining bright, golden future, a brand new light. Feast and dance, the deal is done. Trump Gaza, number one.
We have an opportunity to do something that could be phenomenal. And I don't want to be cute, I don't want to be a wise guy, but the Riviera of the Middle East, this could be something that could be so bad, this could be so magnificent. But, you know, we have one stat that I quote, the autism stat, and you hear different numbers, but it's thousands. They say between 10 and 20,000. So if you go back 15 years ago, we had like nobody. It was 1 in 20,000. Now we have 1 in 34. Is that right? 34. So 34 or 36 kids have autism. And if you go back, I guess 18 years, that whenever that was done, it was 1 in 20,000. So we got from 20,000 to 34, 36. That's unbelievable. So there's something wrong. There's something wrong. We've done something wrong. There's something, you're going to figure it out. Maybe it's a spray that we spray all over the place that nobody else does. Other countries don't. The Pennsylvania Dutch, they don't do anything, and they're amazingly healthy.
I watched the whole Trump speech there, the State of the Union, and I liked what he had to say. In fact, as I was watching it, I started to get this afraid feeling that, oh my gosh, maybe I'm speaking against this guy, and really, he's the good guy, he's doing good. Okay, now, let me just make clear that, of course, there's a difference between what people do and what they say, and I felt into, though, once again, the person that he is, and I maintain my position that I didn't vote for him, and I don't regret not voting for him. However, I still hold out that I could be wrong, but there's enough things to make me pause. But more than pause, I mean, I don't trust him. I wish I could. I like the things that supposedly he's doing there with Elon Musk and the people that he's hired, at least a lot of things, most of the things. And I'm not one of these people with Trump derangement syndrome like I know a lot of people are. And what's really funny around here is that, and it makes me sick, is the people with Teslas now having a sticker on the back of their car with Elon and a cross through it, like anti-Elon, and you know, I just think that that's really lame. And I also thought was lame, disgusting, and immature, and really lacking decency was the Democratic half of the aisle in that speech, holding up little signs and just sitting there absolutely abstinent, not cheering anything that he said or did. I noticed one or two would, but as he pointed out in the beginning of the speech, they never will. But I really thought that whole protest with them holding up the signs and everything, that just looked bad. That make the Democrats look even worse. And I think that I was listening to this guy, Geopolitics. I forget the full name of his channel, but he was complaining about Pete Hegseth, that guy who's now the chief of the Pentagon, basically, and he was complaining a lot of things about him, and I would agree to some extent with some of the alarm that he raised about him. But on the other hand, as a Christian, I'm kind of for somebody who is a gung-ho Christian, but not to the extent that you're calling China and Iran, you know, huge existential threats to our civilization. I don't see it that way. I don't see the Belt and Road Initiative by the Chinese as a threat, and I think that stating so is a really big mistake. And I'm for, like, for instance, I'm not against all the firings and the stuff that Doge is doing, uncovering the corruption and everything. And as I'm listening to Trump, I'm not against anything that he's saying. I'm for it. It's just that I think that it's actually all, in my opinion, it's all done exactly to appease people like us who might actually be a threat, the Christian base, which are largely Republicans. But it's, on the other hand, there's so much positive that's being done that it doesn't benefit me or other people that may suspect him of being a deep state insider, of really like hammering against him or speaking against him, as long as, for what we can see for the most part, trying to end the war in Ukraine, uncovering the corruption, getting rid of woke, it's hard to be a guy. You know, I'm at least, but see, the thing is, unfortunately, I think what it is that what it looks like to me, I still think that assassination attempt was an obviously fake, and all the people that bought it don't have any discernment, just like the guy from A Call from an Uprising said. He got his channel kicked off of YouTube, but he's got a private thing now, but yeah, it's behind a paywall. And as you know, I'm broke. I don't have any money to pay for his Christian content, which I don't think any Christian content should be charged. I think it should be free for everyone, because God's people tend to be the poor. The poor shall inherit the kingdom. And the people that enter the kingdom are those that don't count on their wealth, but they count on the Lord, meaning chances are they're not going to be wealthy, and in fact a lot of times they're going to be on the financially poorer side. The scripture also tells us that there are those that make themselves poor for the sake of the kingdom of God. I believe I myself fall into that particular category. Hopefully the proof is yet to be borne out, but yeah, I think if you point to several key things about Trump and his entire career, not to mention the fact that he is financially very successful, and I don't think that anybody can be in Satan's system and be righteous. I think what might be the case, and I've often had this thought, by the way, also, yes, I do think that he is a reptilian shapeshifter, also in part thanks to the work of the gentleman from A Call for an Uprising, pointing out that lick of blood on the side of his face, and then playing back that tape of him continually saying that story.
You knew damn well I was a snake before you took me in.
You knew I was a serpent before you took me in. And he's telling that story as a warning to, about taking, a lot of illegal immigrants in or something else like that. But I believe it's actually a coded message. What rattlesnakes do, they have to give you a warning. And I think that's what it is. But on the other hand, who knows? Maybe, as I have also often thought, that he is a serpent, but is actually a likable serpent who is a little bit of a rebel in the whole system, and has some Christian values. Although I think that's largely a front, frankly, because of the interview work that somebody was showing on their channel, showing how when they asked him, I said, you said the Bible is your favorite book, can you buy just one quote? No, I don't want to talk about it, I don't want to get into it. Maybe he did have a reason, but it's kind of hard to say that the Bible is your favorite book and you're somebody who's that wealthy, you probably can afford a lot of books, unlike me, but and not just say one quote. Come on, give me something, just to show that you're familiar with it. I don't think that's being too political, or that would have too much of a hard edge. But maybe he was, who knows, maybe I could be wrong, maybe he has a political reason that maybe that would really give meat to a lot of the people that are against him, to say that he's a religious fanatic, which is what that guy from Geopolitics, I forget the full name of his channel, Geopolitical something, whatever, but he was complaining about Pete Hegseth being like this total fanatical religious person that really, I mean, not just the tattoos on his body, I mean, that's to me is that's, but when the main thing that kind of raised red flags for me is the saying that all Muslims basically are ultimately are going to be fundamentalists who want to take over the world and squash all other religions. I think that's very dangerous. I in my personal opinion, in the Muslims that I've talked with, they're nice people that I like, oftentimes more than Christians that I talk to, because Christians have a scorner attitude for everything that doesn't match their idea out of the scripture. And not only that, they just the Muslims, like I said, I bet they seem to be nice people that I like, And I think that if you're a good neighbor, you're not having a problem, which kind of segues into my next topic here about just commenting once again about the Israeli-Palestine conflict, and a possible defense of Trump's position on that, which is that, see, I look at it like this. Now, don't get me wrong. What's happening is terrible, but at the same time, war is terrible, and they did attack. And they have been attacking as long as I've been alive, okay, and watching the news. I've been hearing about radical fundamentalists in Palestine constantly shooting rockets into Israel. Now, that may be in retaliation, but bottom line to it is that's not Christian values. By the way, I'm definitely not happy about them persecuting and killing Christians in the Gaza Strip, because I hear that there's a whole Christian population there. But at the same time, war is war, and if you kill the enemy, even as if you don't kill that many as the other side is killing of you and women and children, you can count on there being mass casualties. And I think the people that are quick to say and hit the hammer about it being a genocide, which it is, technically it is, but again, war is war. And here's the point I wanted to make, though. Let's consider this. If they were good neighbors, if they were really good neighbors, despite the oppression and other problems, don't you think that they would quite have the problem that has led up to what's happening now? Just think about it. Just think, let's say it was another population that didn't have that radical Islam jihad mentality. Let's just, who knows, some other group. And they didn't continuously fire rockets into Israel, and they behaved lawfully. And even if it is kind of an unfair or maybe kind of apartheid system, and their people get treated badly, but if they at least decided to work with them and be cool and be lawful and take jobs in what jobs they offer and to be cool, would they have had to build a wall? Would Israel had to build a wall to keep them out? And I think it's because I think it's very similar. I have to say, I think their problem, the Israel's problem with the Palestinians, and I know it goes both ways. And there's lots of I hear about some of the crap that's on the other side. Trust me, and I don't. I would just say for the Jews and the Israelis watching, if you resort to crappy tactics, people are eventually going to find out, and it's going to look bad. Don't do it. Be wise. Don't do that. It's making your side look worse. The political situation is looking terrible for Israel. But I don't think it has to, and I don't think if they had handled it a little bit more wisely, they could have at least avoided it in large part and not done things like, I think, the exploding pagers and cell phones, again, and also false, possible, I don't know, I'm just speculating on what the news is, but possible kind of, dredged up anti-Semitism. If you resort to shitty tactics, it's just going to look bad. Why not do that? Let the other side look as bad as they do for their tactics, and let them take the blame. Because otherwise, I think a lot of reasonable people feel the way I do, looking at it like, you know what? Yeah, it is terrible. It is technically a genocide, but they are participants in a war, and just because their side's getting hammered so much worse doesn't mean that automatically you should just feel sorry for them because they're getting hammered so much worse. I think that they have really kind of, as a collective, asked for what they are now getting. And the fact that Trump wants to do some kind of deal to redevelop it and so forth doesn't seem like this, really as bad as a lot of people are making it out to be. Yeah, I mean, it could be. I don't there's almost no good coating you can put on building a resort over the dead bodies of your slain victims, but at the same time, there's worse. There's a lot worse that can continue to go on, including the status quo, just like letting them all go back and letting all the things go on there, and they continue firing rockets into Israel, and Israel continues to bomb them. Time for a change of tactics here. Okay, and if it's build a resort with Elon Musk scooping up hummus and bearded ladies dancing, I say, what the fuck? That's kind of my feeling about it, because it can't. To me, the suffering on the Palestinian side is worse leaving the status quo as it is. So who knows? Maybe if Trump does build a, if it doesn't turn into an all-out worldwide ship fight, which it looks like it, according to scripture, it says eventually it does. But I mean, in the meantime, it could actually be, if they develop it and those people can get jobs there and have a productive, fruitful life, maybe they can industrialize and who knows? And it could be a much better situation for those people and their children and the generations to come. Certainly know what they got now, crammed in this little tiny space, and their fundamentalist youth are firing rockets into Israel, and then Israel's retaliating, cutting off the water, and it's just ongoing misery. Why not tear down and rebuild? Now, people like George Galloway, and I respect George Galloway, and I like him, and I just don't quite see it the same way, because I think that the problem that Israel has is kind of similar to the problem that California has and Texas has and border states have with the people on the other side of the border coming over, the very poorest coming over. And I can tell you from my personal experience, it's just unfortunate when the people from another country come over here in desperation to get jobs and have a better life and send money back home, hate you. Okay, I'm talking about the hate of the other people for us in a very, very big way. That I know a lot of people here know exactly what I'm talking about. If you go into a across the border population that comes over here and fills out a neighborhood that becomes almost homogenous to their group, and then you as a Native American walks into their territory, there's the the general feeling of not being welcome. It's really unfortunate, and not as unfortunate as them firing rockets into our neighborhoods, which is a lot worse. And I think the Israelis kind of have an argument there. But to me, it's a similar problem. When you have a group that has a mindset, ideology, whatever you want to call it, that just kind of sucks to integrate. And by the way, I'm not saying that their situation is as bad as our situation. That our situation, by the way, is as bad as their situation. Because when you're talking about violence and death and people dying and bombs exploding and stuff like that, let's just say people from the southern border that come over here, if they had the ideology of building improvised explosives and stuff like that, and firing rockets into other upper class neighborhoods here and that kind of thing, with exploding bombs and people's children being blown to crap, and people feeling unsafe, and people having to bring their fully automatic machine guns into the marketplace, which you see all the time. You see those Israelis walking with their Uzis and their M4s and stuff like that. You see women going to the markets with their M4 at their side. By the way, that's a heavy weapon. I wouldn't be carrying around anything. I have to one. That thing is heavy, man. And that was without the grenade launcher. It's too heavy. If I was these women, you got to get a lighter weight machine gun. I don't know how much an Uzi weighs, but you got to go lighter weight on those fully automatic weapons. But I mean, that's at that point is we're talking. It's a whole category of worse, but it's similar. It's similar because there's other problems besides them hating us. Okay. It's whole areas get trashed out with crime, graffiti, and other problems that carry over that I have personally suffered from because of a mentality, a mindset that is associated with a particular group. And it's a freaking problem. So when I hear all these people griping about the Israelis kind of coming to well, I don't want to compare it to some other people in World War II's final solution kind of issue, but when they're kind of saying it's that and calling it the same thing, no, I think it's a whole different category, and it's the things that are being done by Israel, the war that they are waging, I'm just from my personal opinion, has a lot of justification to where I think a lot of reasonable people here in America are kind of saying, genocide, yeah, but there's a big but and a lot of other circumstances to go along with that. Just my opinion, but to God, it may look a lot different than my opinion may state, and I may be wrong about that, and I don't know. It's just that when you're fighting a war and they're killing your people, and it's been going on for the 30 years that I've been watching the news, and even long before that, before I was even old enough to comprehend what I was seeing on the news of rockets. You could see the rockets firing from Gaza into Israel. Like I said, at a certain point, if it's come to a very ugly situation, well, it's come to an ugly situation, but they kind of asked for it to some degree. And I think, again, if they had been cool, and if not, I think if they were reasonable, like let's just say it was a group of Christian Irishmen, I think those Irishmen would have said to themselves, and by the way, they do tend to get violent with bombs and everything, but I think even they would have said, you know what, let's either work for them and be cool, or get the F out of here. There's other places to go. Just integrate somewhere else. And say, well, that's their long tradition, standing homeland. Yeah, I understand. The Jews feel the same way about their land, but they have an argument that it was originally theirs. But I mean, under the circumstances, if you can't just be cool enough to integrate and work with them, okay, if you got to be their housekeepers or whatever, fine. If you have faith in your God, that things will eventually be better, why not just be cool? Because I don't think that any problem that you've got is worth breaking the commandment if God hasn't given you an actual mandate to war, where we know that the word of God came to some people and told them. That's very rare. For the most part, when you're killing people, you're going against the commandment, but they don't go against the commandment because they're not Christians. They're Muslims. And a lot of them are fundamentalists, and ones that weren't radical get radicalized by their circumstances, which I think in part they have themselves to blame for not integrating, for not being cool, not joining, work with them. I think, like I said, if they were truly reasonable, they would integrate. They would at least be cool enough that they wouldn't have their power turned off. They wouldn't be thrust into poverty as much. They could get prosperity for themselves. But I think what happens is, again, it's similar to the problem that we have here. Not as bad, but there's a mentality that tends to bake in the poverty that causes people to become fundamentalists or do other things like resort to robbery. You can't leave your car for 2 seconds in this town, okay? And I don't mean to blame a whole certain group, but you know what? A lot of us know what the facts are. And the facts are that when you're desperate in poverty because of a mindset, maybe a culture, or maybe something just baked into a group, it causes the desperation that causes them, because normally you don't want to hurt other people's stuff and break into their car and steal their stuff. But I think that's what a lot of people are left with, because they feel pissed off that, and especially when they're going hungry, they're hungry. Believe it or not, you got hunger in this country, which I think doesn't have to be. But the poverty and other conditions that lead them to that act of desperation. Whereas if they had general prosperity, they wouldn't. But it's a mess either way. Just going back to the Israeli-Palestine issue, there's no clean, easy answer.
And I remember, I'll swear on a stack of Bibles, I remember a lizard man in that office.